Nigerians, both locally and in diaspora, about what they intend to do for this great nation, Nigeria. And the order by which we'll be taking our discuss today will be as follows. Number one, we'll have each representative of the parties speak for about 3 or 4 minutes on who they are, what role they play in the party, and of course, the manifestos in as brief as possible of each of the parties. Thereafter, we will begin to ask a few questions of each of them, seeking explanations on this platform. Please, back end, can we have people mute their phones, please, so that we have no interruptions? And then thereafter, we will then take questions from the floor. At least there'll be 200-300 people, maybe more, on this call today. And we may not be able to take all the questions. Some people should please post their questions into the box. Others may want to ask their questions physically. You raise your hand as you usually do. You introduce yourself. You go straight to the question and you tell us who you are directing the question. You can simply say, this question is for the APC, or this question is for Labour, or this question is for the PDP. And the appropriate person will respond to the questions. Please let us be civil in our language. Let's not attack anybody. What we want is information with which people can take informed decisions and know what to expect should any of these parties be gifted with the responsibility of leading Nigeria. Thereafter, we will make a few comments from ALG and then get each of the representatives to make their final comments, and we will close. Okay? If they have any one of them that has one or two other people from their parties that they wish to make contributions, they should please introduce that person and then get that person to make that contribution. But we want to keep everything straight to the point, short, sharp, and direct. People may wish to take notes and take reminders. Of course, this is being broadcast live on our YouTube channel, on our Twitter and Instagram handles, as well as Zoom. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Please welcome with me the representatives of each of the parties, again in alphabetical order. From the APC, we have Dapo Okweoluwa Dapo Thomas, a member of the APC Presidential Campaign Council and an international financial analyst. From the Labour Party, you have Otumba Akin Oshutokun, who is the Director General of the Labour Party, or the Obidati Campaign Council. And then from the PDP, you have Dr. Daniel Bwala, a legal practitioner and a notary public, who is also a senior member of the PDP and the PDP Campaign Council. You are all welcome, gentlemen, and would like you all to please take the floor one after the other, 4 minutes each at the maximum. Introduce yourself as you'd like to be better known, and then tell us what role you play in your party and give us a brief outline of your manifestos. Thank you very much. Starting with Mr. Okweoluwa Dapo Thomas. Thereafter, we have Otumba Akin Oshutokun, and then thereafter we have Dr. Daniel Bwala. If I've been a bit not appropriate in my introductions, please forgive me, and please reintroduce yourself as you like to be known. Thank you very much. God bless you. Mr. Okweoluwa Dapo Thomas, the floor is yours.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for introducing me. My name is Okweoluwa Dapo Thomas. I'm a member of the APC Presidential Campaign Council. I work with the public affairs team to see how we can put out what we want to do for Nigerians going forward in the next 4 to 8 years, how we want to set Nigeria up for progress. And obviously our manifesto titled Renew Hope is going to touch on a few points. And this few points obviously shows we have sat down to look at sector by sector, how we want to improve the life of Nigerians. What we're doing basically is talking about different points, ranging from national security, agriculture, power, economy, oil and gas, and other sectors of the economy. So for lack of time, let me just go ahead and talk about what we want to do with the security. Now, obviously, security is one of the biggest things, the discussions we've had over the last 8 years. What we've learned in 8 years is security has a ripple effect on the economy. Number one, for foreign direct investment, nobody's going to invest in a country that is not secure. Also, locally, nobody's going to be able to do any sort of building or business if it's not going to be secure. So what we have done is to see and highlight where the places we want to secure. First off, we are going to see how we can improve the military, police, and the paramilitary by helping recruit, train, and get more people into the police force. We're also going to see how we can make efficient use of the police. Right now, we have the police force, obviously, that yes, they're doing a good job. However, there's ways they can be more efficient. First off, and that's why one of the things we've promised is to remove police from supporting VIP security. We're going to see how the NSDCD can do that so that police can spend more time with protecting the lives of Nigerians. We're also going to we're going to protect our crude oil infrastructure. We've seen how much revenue we lose every month because of crude oil theft. So how are we going to protect it, either through aerial ground-based technology, or we're going to have to sit down there and man them. So these are the things we want to do in security. In agriculture obviously is one of the most important things we need in the country. A country of about 200 million people. We have to see how we can strive for food sufficiency. And how we're going to do that is, number one, expand the arable land that we have. We're going to help with credit financing. Obviously, we're going to continue through the Anchor Borrowers program to see how we can support rural communities and farmers. One of the things in Nigeria, one of the big mistakes we make is we don't use data to support most of our policies, and that's why there's usually a policy disconnect. Nigerians spend about 80% of their income on food. So if we can find ways to reduce that, the cost of food, then we now leave Nigerians with more disposable income and purchasing power. So what we're going to do, and this is basically what we're going to do, is going to find a way to improve agriculture, number one, with financing. And we've already said we're going to channel some of the money, if not all of the money we spend on subsidies, into boosting agriculture. Because like I've said, subsidies takes about maybe 30 or a large percentage of our budget. We use that, and we've seen that it's inefficient. Number one, it creates distortions. Number two, it doesn't help or it really impacts the life of the average Nigerian, because how much Nigerians spend on fuel? The data shows about 5.6% of income is what Nigerians spend on fuel. But if we look at food, where we have about 80% of our income going to food, I think that's where we should actually channel our resources. So if we channel our resources to helping agriculture, that would also help us. Also in the economy, we're going to look at two things. How can we improve revenue? You can't improve revenue with number one, we're going to solve security, help with agriculture, but we want to see how we can improve revenue, how we can grow our GDP, how we can also help with our foreign currency debt. Because the truth is, our foreign debt is very hard to service. Last year we spent about 41% of our budget servicing debt. So how can we reduce it? Our principal, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has said, is going to find ways to ensure that we do not even borrow in foreign currency anymore. We are going to any type of borrowing will be local, because the truth is, it's very hard to repay foreign debts. So we're going to find a way to limit it. And also, we're going to go into oil and gas. Number one, we've not enjoyed our oil proceeds in a long time. Countries like Qatar, Russia made billions of dollars over the last few years as a result of the Russia-Ukraine impasse, but we've not made it because all our money has gone to subsidies. So when we take away subsidies, revenues come in, and then we're going to see how we can bring back IOCs into the country. So from fueling for subsidies, bringing back IOCs, protecting oil and gas infrastructure, then we work on that. Infrastructure and transportation, we're going to leverage on and consolidate most of the projects of Mohamed Buhari. We're going to see how we can help with decongesting ports, because the truth is the ports in Apapa, obviously, that help. It makes cost of goods and services expensive. So how can we bring ports all the way to the south, to the southeast, to make life better for Nigerians? Also, we're going to talking about mortgages. We're going to work with banks to see how we can improve mortgages. On healthcare, we're going to see how we're going to work with state government to help with healthcare. Power, we're going to help in continuing implementation of the Siemens Power Project. So we have so many plans and so many ideas we want to actually do for the country. And one of the most important things we want to do is to work and partner with the state government. partner with the state governments, partner with the local governments, see how we can now ensure using data, which is most of the most important things we want to do, using data to help Nigerians. Also, there's also room for decentralization of power through also constitutional review and then resource allocation. We're going to see how we can give states more authority to speak on taxes, income.
Thank you, Mr.
So there's
Thomas.
many things we want to do. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thomas. Thank you. That's very illuminative, and we will be taking you up on a few questions thereafter. We are really running strict to time, and we'll try to keep to that time. 4 minutes, Dr. Otumba Akin Oshutokun, the Director General of the Labour Party Campaign Organization. Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just have few observations to make. First, I didn't understand this to be the format. We have 6 spokespersons, so I'm kind of superfluous coming to serve as spokesperson here. Either of the 6 of them could have taken my place. Secondly, of course, is that I will not be able to spend a long time here because I have to attend to some other issues. But I thank you once again for inviting me. My own position of Nigeria is that Nigeria is at a pre-ideological level. In other words, the problem of Nigeria is not ideological. It's not even manifesto. If you look at the manifestos of all the parties, they are all more or less basically rhetoric, the same rhetoric, platitude. And it started with, actually it started in 1999. And how it started was that the late Ighodalo, when he was in PDP, they first started with PDP. He wrote the manifesto.
I think your sound went off.
Yeah, a call was coming in. So I had to cut it off. So it's not the problems of Nigeria that we're responding to. They are very basic problems, very simple basic problems. These are security, food security, structural deficit, and also all whatnot. So it's not really, there's no really, you won't gain a lot. There's only much you can, that will be beneficial to, stand up on the manifesto. Look, the President Buhari, right, and the APC probably had the very good manifesto in 2015. Nobody remembers what the manifesto is and what they've done with it. Nevertheless, we were able to access, stewardship, regardless of manifesto. Right? You can access any government in Nigeria today and with the nearest future on the basis of what the person does in office, not what they write out. One of probably the number one item on APC manifesto was the decentralization and what they call restoration to federalism. The president, who was the chief candidate or the leader of the party, got to office and he said more or less threw it away that they should go and keep it in archives.
Please, can we have the people at the background mute their mics, please?
What my principal usually calls
Dr. Oshutokun, please unmute your mic. Unmute your mic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I was talking about what my principal calls from moving from consumption to production. Well, that would be the only objective that we have. This will have been a remedy to all the other objectives you may think of. There is no way you can move from consumption to production without having the necessary infrastructural support, without the necessary security, without all the things that make for a functional society. Now, Nigeria is experiencing what is called a systemic crisis. In other words, you cannot isolate one that you want to correct or deal with and leave the others. For Nigeria to move forward, you have to address the system as a whole, not divisible into one or the other. If you said you want to do anything about agriculture, what about the bandits and terrorists who will make that impracticable for you? If you said you want to do corruption or no corruption, the civil servants are there, at the public service, and there's nothing you can do about it. The thing about Nigeria is, as I said, it's not about manifesto. It's about those who are now presenting themselves for leadership, right? The worst of them may have the best manifesto. That is not the issue. The issue is this, that you assess them, given the criteria of character, competence, and capability, which you can easily derive from their background, that this one would say, this one would do this. Nigeria has not gotten to a stage of, in the US, where you have the Republicans leading rightists, and then you have Democrats left of center. No, not at all. The problems you have are basic. The most important of which is constitutional. Now, the thing about the constitution of Nigeria is that you cannot do something on nothing. Right? Nigeria, when Nigeria was more or less being conceived and being not, the four individuals or entities that know Nigeria more than any other person, and they had the legitimacy more than any other set of Nigerians, were first, the British colonialists, Chief Obafemi Awolowo,
Mr. Chairman, are you still on? Because I think his sound has gone off again.
Hello?
Yeah, your sound has gone off.
I think he got a call coming. Please go ahead, sir.
Yes,
You have about 30
I
seconds more to round up. 30 seconds, please.
So the problem of Nigeria is not about manifesto or no manifesto. You always get platitudes in manifestos of whoever or whatever. It has to do with those who are putting themselves forward. We have a constitution that will make any society functional. Now, first of all, you have to have a constitutionally based society. We have not even gotten to that state that we live by our constitution. Before now, you can differentiate into different angles, what you call expert and specialists and things like that. And if you look at what we are having today, the character, those three candidates, their personality matter more than any other thing they will tell you they are going to do. Right? Everybody will tell you, sing all sorts of good songs for you, but they won't do it. I mean, look, it's not my remedy to come here and criticize anyone, but look, right now, the criteria that are most useful is character, capability, and competence. And this you can see from their antecedents, from even their campaign trail, right? Somebody, a presidential candidate, 1 or 2 days ago, was talking about Atiku being the Senate president. Now, no matter the beauty manifesto of that person, now he has failed smear test. And this is more important, than manifesto that everybody, it's not manifesto, it's not the issue, it's not the problem with Nigeria at all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Said, I will have to take off very soon.
Please don't take off too soon because there are going to be a few questions coming your way. If you can just give us a few minutes to ask those questions. And I do know you are a little bit under pressure, but please oblige us. Thank you. Can we then go to Dr. Daniel Boala of the PDP? Please, 4 minutes exactly. Let's try and keep to time. And then I'm going to ask Jumoke and Sonny to please conduct very quickly the questions and answer session, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you. Dr. Boala, please. Please unmute yourself.
I say good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I must observe also that Dr. Oshuntokun has actually spent 14 minutes, but that's not a problem. From the perspective of the PDP, we think that Nigeria right now is at a crossroad, and we believe that the problems that we have gotten into, or the dimension in which the problem has metamorphosed, is caused by the occupant of the seat of power, the All Progressives Congress, who came and sold the idea of a threefold mandate of security, economy, and fighting corruption. And so we believe that this election is about a referendum, like an examination on them whether or not they have made the case that is worthy enough to be granted the opportunity. And our belief is that in the area of security, they have mismanaged the security. There's no part of the country where we can say it is secured. And that has affected virtually every facet of our lives. In the area of the economy, here we are faced up with how many trillion naira debt that whoever wins the election will have to pay. And how you generate the money to pay is not the problem of the managers of the debt. We believe in the area of fighting corruption, there has never been corruption in the magnitude like the ones we have in this administration since the return of the Republic. And so we believe we offer an alternative. And the alternative we offer is captured in our manifesto. We have 5-pronged approach. Firstly, we believe that the nation is as powerful as the integrity of that nation. And the integrity of that nation is rooted in the unity and national sensitization of the people. The APC has mismanaged the unity of Nigeria. And that's why we believe that Atiku Abubakar is going to bring the Nigerian people together under a common purpose with a national sense of responsibility. You see, we rise or we fall on the strength of our unity. And the reason why APC mismanaged the unity of the country is because we believe that the way the government was run, because the Constitution says the government must be run in such a manner that it will reflect the principles of federal character. They did not manage that diversity. A part of the country feel they are not part of Nigeria. They cannot have their aspirations. They cannot dream and believe they can achieve great things because in the subconscious mind of some people in power, they believe that they should not be given a first shot. And you can only bring the Nigerian people together when you are able to forge a common front. Atiku also proposed for the economy a private sector-led economy. And we believe that our economy is the way it is because APC did not allow the private sector to lead. And we have also observed, we look at economies around the world, and we've concluded on the basis of facts, statistics, and data that economies that have succeeded are economies that not only recognize the strength of the private sector, but have given them the opportunity. That's why in America, you can find 5 companies of Americans managing more than 30 to 40% of the global revenue. Atiku believes that you give that private sector leadership by giving them incentive, creating the enabling environment for them to thrive. We also did a study and discover even in the area of education, where healthcare that we propose for the Nigerian people, if you allow the private sector to lead, you can have a robust nation where these areas will be taken care of. We did a research and came up with a finding that every year, about 30,000 Nigerians travel around the world for medical tourism, and they spend on an average of $2 to $3 billion. And they spend around the area of orthopedic, cancer, kidney, and I think physiotherapy or something like that. And we believe that if you allow private sector to thrive in Nigeria, they will create the same hospitals where Nigerian people can have services. Even if it is expensive, when we remove subsidy, we'll be able to subsidize for these areas. APC only with their mouth say they believe in removal of subsidy, but they never had the guts to do that. So our alternative is to make sure we take the bull by the horn by ensuring that we remove subsidy and invest and reinvest the proceeds of what would have gone into subsidy in areas like transportation. Because once you remove subsidy, the direct impact will be felt by the middle class and the lower class. But when you subsidize transportation, then you can have the people coming together. Ituah has proposed also a $10 billion carrying capital to make sure that the youth are engaged in the economy. And he said he's going to do that by bringing together a consortium of firms. We look at areas by which we can get the how. We looked at moribund assets of the government. When you privatize, you create efficiency, effectiveness, and you generate the revenue. We look at capital in this country that are dormant. That's why even the restriction on Naira is evident that we have a large chunk of our money, about 2 trillion or thereabout, kept in private homes doing nothing. We believe that dollar will always find its way to wherever investment is available. You can be a Nigerian, never had US visa, but when you see that Apple is introducing shares, for example, that will bring return on investment, as a Nigerian, you will invest. If we create that environment, it will come. We look at insecurity. Fundamentally, we believe that we have failed. APC has failed because of intelligence gathering and sharing. We have lost of confidence with our international partners because when intelligence is shared with Nigeria, and you can look at the fight in the Northeast, our intelligence platforms have not been able to successfully carry that out. And that's because there is no political leadership in that regard. Facts are there. And then we also look at the area of education. You know, Atiku Abubakar believes so much in education. He didn't have to go to school, but during the COVID, decided to go and increase his knowledge of the contemporary issues of this world and acquired masters in Anglo Ruskin University in the United Kingdom. And he believes, and you can see that evident in his private life, he established schools from primary school right up to universities and gave scholarship to people. He believed that a nation that is built on education and knowledge will be much more effective than a nation that is built on natural resources, but without that understanding. And we believe that our people all over the world thrive. Why are they not thriving in Nigeria? The environment is not created. He is going to give incentive to private sector to participate in the education. The proceeds of what we get from the money that would have invested in what is it called, subsidy, we're going to make sure we revamp and build back government schools and ensure that facilities are there. So let me stop at this point.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you indeed for that elucid presentation. Let me now pass it on to the pair of Sonny Enebi and Jumoke Akintaylor to now drive us through the question and answer process. Thank you all very much. God bless you.
All right. Thank you very much, Pastor. And welcome again, Mr. Thomas and Bola. Has Mr. Oshitokun left?
Yes, he has. So I think we just have the two. I don't know if there's anyone else from the Labour Party that can speak
great.
on their manifesto.
Thank you that you are
We
here.
are expecting Dr. Tanko Yusuf.
Okay, all right. I think the real purpose why we are doing this, you know, even though the Aki said that manifestos are basically all the same, but it's still a measure by which we can hold people accountable. And what we are doing is to find out exactly to help people make the right choices, because he did make the point that what is on display is the character and the quality of the kind of person we want to elect, which is true. But beyond that, what do you want to do for us? Because politicians make many promises. We have had the opportunity of looking at your manifestos. That means you have written in print what you want to do for the Nigerian people. And we want to hold you accountable. I think what has been lacking in the system and in the polity is that after the election, whoever emerges, just go on a spree and begins to do what they like. So this time around, we are trying to create a website where all the promises made in the manifesto and made on the campaign trail will be entered. If you can give us timelines for fulfilling them, it will be very good, so that we will be able to tick when those promises have been fulfilled. And if they have not, we will highlight them so that the Nigerian people can see who is telling the truth or not. So you are welcome to this session. We will be grilling you a bit on the manifestos that you have put out there and what it is that you want the Nigerian people. And you all have spoken copiously across all the lines that we are looking at, speaking to you on: education, power, health, infrastructure, security. So the question is, let's start with security, for example. And I take on the APC spokesperson. Your party says in the area of security, they are going to create anti-terrorist battalion and upgrade weapons that they are going to use. This, I'm quoting from your manifesto now. They said that they will improve the salary and general welfare of the security agency, improve management of national database of security for security purposes. Can we please know what, because this thing is not specific, it's not broken down, what exactly should we expect, and by what period should we expect to begin to see improvement in the security region, at least according to the manifesto that you have put out there?
Now, well, for something like security, obviously, it's something we can do in the short term, as soon as we...
Short term,
yes,
how long?
Yes. Well, to be honest, if swearing in is in May, by God's grace, by swearing in May, something we can start in the next 3-6 months after swearing in, something we can put together. Because, you know, with security, there are too many factors that are into play. Number one, the first thing we have to do is funding. Now, the good part about this conversation, and like the Labour Party spokesman spoke about, was antecedents. I think when it comes to antecedents, I think there is no candidate as clear as Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The first thing I'll show you is when he was governor, he floated the first Lagos State Security Fund. And what was that fund about? That's what we called private sector people to come and contribute to the to the security fund of Lagos State. How? Now, we were having insecurity issues in Lagos. I mean, there are a lot of insecurity issues, and this is where businesses are, this is where banks are, this is the former capital of the country. And the president, obviously, the presidential candidate, that's in Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who was the governor, he called all the private sector people and said, your businesses can't fly or can't thrive if we don't improve our security. Also, you need to know that security is not in the hands of our governor when he was governor. But what he did was also say, let's find a way to get donations. Let's help the police. We can help them with motor cars, help them with different sorts of things that will help them. He also created the RRS, that's the Rapid Response Squad. So this is someone that, and this was against obviously the confines of, he's not in charge of security. But we created the RRS, and the RRS obviously expanded the police capabilities. So this is someone with antecedent. So when we say we want to improve security, look back at what we did and look at other candidates. What did we do when it comes to security in the past?
Yeah,
we increased the funds.
When you say that the APC is currently in power, so
yes, we've done well in the security. Number one, when we came in. No, let me land. This is contextual, yeah? When we came in 2015, out of 774 local governments, 14 local governments were under siege by Boko Haram. Right now, they've just been limited to isolated attacks. There is no local government where Boko Haram is dominant. All they just do is isolated attacks, making trips from Sambisa Forest. When people say, oh, we should clear the Sambisa Forest, I think people don't have an idea of how large Sambisa Forest is. That Sambisa Forest is so large, it's larger than some states combined together. So we made progress. You know, we made progress in that aspect.
Thank you. We'll come back to that, and we'll come back to that because they fact-checked that statement several times. All we know is that election in 2015 took place in the whole of Nigeria. At least Jonathan shifted that election to take care of something. So when you say 14 local governments were under Boko Haram, did they prevent election or were they controlling? Anyway, we'll come back to that. Let me go to Mr. Bwala. I want to welcome, I hear that Tanko Yakase from the Labour Party is here. You are welcome to the platform and we'll be engaging you very soon. Mr. Bwala, for your party, you know, security-wise, your principal have said that they will decentralize and restructure the security institution, recruit up to 1 million personnel into the Nigerian police. Currently, we have about 300 or 350 policemen. How do you intend to scale it up to 1 million by what period are we looking at? And when you say structure and decentralize, are you talking of state policing, local government policing? Is that what the policy of the PDP is?
Okay, because the conversation we're having is like a debate. Sometimes in responding to question,
yes,
you also refer to what your other fellow debater said. And that's the perspective from which I'm coming. APC has not been able to live up to its creed in terms of security. Buhari appeared in the Chatham House on the 18th of February, 2015 and promised the world that by the time he is voted or APC is voted into power, the world would have no reason to worry about Nigeria. 8 years down the line, the world is more worried about Nigeria than they are of Afghanistan. Why? Because there is virtually no part of Nigeria where there is no insecurity, to the point, even the very seat of power was threatened at some point when the bandits said they were going to take over the seat of power. They've done a lot of prison attacks. In fact, Rufai once told the federal government that bandits were stationed somewhere around Kaduna and they intend to take over Kaduna. With all the infrastructure that they talked about, to move from Abuja to Kaduna is near impossible because of insecurity. You have banditry, you have in the Niger Delta and all that. So they have not been able to live to their creed, and there is no evidence to suggest that the current manifesto of APC will do anything different. As a matter of fact, it will even do worse, because when they came to power, we didn't have as much debt as we have now. If you ask them, how are you going to meet up with all of that? They can't answer, because they don't have any revenue generating idea as far as the government is concerned. But this is our proposal with respect to security. And in response to your question, yes, Atiku proposed a total of about 1 million or more security forces in Nigeria. But this is the perspective from where Atiku is coming from. There is a noise at the background. Somebody is talking, and I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yeah, he's muted now. Sorry about that.
So Atiku proposed that, number one, we will bring a legislative reform for the amendment of the constitution that will grant states the power to create police. So we're going to have multi-layer policing. You have the federal police, you have the state police, and then you have the local police. However, we will amend the constitution to the extent that even the state police and the local police will be subject to the overriding power of the federal police, but powers will be granted to the state to use this coercive instrument to maintain law and order. We have 36 states of the federation, and if you do the math of how many police force that a state, for example, will produce, by the time you put them together, you will see that we are going the distance to achieving that. And Atiku's point of view, because there's one of our rallies, I think, and one of the town hall, he explained further that we have the military, which is about 300 or so, we have police 300, and so you have civil defense, another paramilitary. Put them together, will come to about 700 and something. We're going to stretch it and make sure that we have state police, local police, but we're going to increase the number of the police, because right now, our ratio in Nigeria is far below the international standards in terms of the ratio. So we're looking to recruit probably 200 more police at the federal level, while we're looking to partnering with the state to create more police. This is the perspective of our approach to security. Everywhere in the world, you succeed insofar as your capacity to gather intelligence is effective. Intelligence gathering is the key. You know, when we started this fight against Boko Haram, initially there was no success because the armies, they were going by coercive forces. And so each time the people strike, they come into a community and not being able to discern between the good guys and the bad guys, they kill everybody. So when DSS came into play, we discovered that the government achieved to an extent. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So intelligence gathering is number one. Number two, leadership. Leadership is everything. Everything rises and falls on leadership. We believe that APC has failed because we have not seen leadership brought to bear in the management of security. Oftentimes, you will hear the president will post either a general or police commissioner or police IG to a particular city and ask the person to stay until the situation is dealt with. You will hear by the next day the man is back in Abuja. When we started this war, all the service chiefs were sent to Borno. How these people found their way back to Abuja is a mystery. There is also the lack of collaboration between the Air Force and the Army. That's why we had so much of casualty in the north. while the ground forces are talking A, the Air Force are talking B. So you bring leadership, intelligence gathering, leadership, and then Atiku believes also in motivating them. Now, if you register, if you are drafted into the Nigerian army or you come into the police system, it's like a death sentence. There is no plan for your family. There is no plan for your welfare. There is no plan for your children's school, their healthcare, their education, and everything. And the reason why the American soldier, the American people can die for America is because America is what will always stand for, the American soldiers. So this is where we're looking at. Above all, we believe insecurity is also caused by injustice. This is the part that we are not looking at, because justice to an extent brings peace. But where there is no justice, where there is no equity, where there is no fair play, then people will now take arms and result in all kinds of violence.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boala. I truly wish that all these things that you guys, all what you have said, were documented in that order, because what we have seen over time is that the spokespersons speak so eloquently about the programs and what the parties will do. But because we don't have them in fine print, if they eventually get in, it is easy to wriggle out. Either the principal says, that is not what I said, or I didn't say that, or I didn't know that was said on my behalf. When a budget is presented, after the budget is presented, we now have the budget breakdown. So and we're going to be holding some of these things, we'll have recordings, we'll try to make snapshot of it, so that what people say, we're able to hold the parties against it. Thank you.
Let me, one second, let me clarify that.
Yes.
Now, our manifesto is elaborate, but manifesto is not by all means the all-encompassing. That's why, as a country, we have the Constitution, which is the body of law, and then we have other subsidiary laws that further, breaks the law down to the people. So what we are saying in our manifesto, we provide the vision for what we intend to do, but beyond the manifesto, we have successfully appeared and are still appearing in town halls, in debate, where we get the opportunity to break them down. So like we're engaging tonight, it affords us the opportunity now to break down what we said in the manifesto, but you can always refer to the manifesto. And if you think what we're saying contradict what is in the manifesto, then you can draw our attention to it. But the manifesto is by no means an exhaustive.
No problem at all. Thank you very much. I want to welcome Tanko Yakase from the Labour Party. I think he's one of the the spokesman of Labour Party. Mr. Tanko Yakase, you are welcome. Can you hear me, sir? Can Mr. Tanko hear me? All right. No problem. I understand you're on the platform, so if you can hear, you can unmute yourself and answer. Like I said, what we are looking at, thank you for the clarification, Mr. Boala. What we are doing here tonight is just clarifying the manifestos of the party as presented to us in Nigeria, because this is, you can say a lot of things on the campaign trail, but it's the manifesto that we have that we're going to use to judge you. I go to Mr. Thomas now from the APC. You did mention about agriculture and using data to support that Nigerians spend about 80% of their resources on food, while, just a mere paltry percentage goes to oil. And so you guys are going to reverse that order. We have seen this government talk a lot about agriculture. That's the current Buhari regime. And for about 2 years, they shut the border and said they were trying to force internal production of rice. Recently, he came to Lagos, that's the president, and launched a rice mill built by Lagos. In your estimation, does the party know exactly the total food consumption requirement we need for Nigeria? How much are we able to produce locally, and what imports do we need to subsidize what local production will be doing? So that we are planning, since you said we will use data to pursue this particular drive, yeah? Okay, so the truth is, one of the things we want to do, obviously, is use data to be able to drive home some of these results. And so we know we have an exponential population, yeah? So when we and sometimes we are even into that
although yes, it's been controversial, we'll call it the Malthusian trap, where food grows arithmetically and population grows geometrically. But what we want to do is to see, what do we consume the most? We've seen that there are so many staple foods that Nigerians consume that obviously we have comparative advantage in: rice, sorghum, yam, thereabouts. And we produce so much. I'm not sure. Can you hear me? Someone says can't hear anything, just to be sure.
No,
Okay.
your sound is very good.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah. Also, so we want to produce, we want to see how we can spend so much effort producing this type of food to reduce what do I call it? Now, in terms of data, currently I'm not privy to that information. Like I said, these are things that the Ministry of Agriculture and the Central Bank obviously have information. So I'm not privy to that information. My apologies. However, when we come in, we'll be able to find out how can we achieve food sufficiency. In fact, we now have a dilemma, and this is the truth. You see, Nigerians need to understand that we're going to make tough decisions. So the dilemma we are facing is, one, should we focus on domestic food production that would take care of the 200 million Nigerians we have? Then arguably till we do a census, that's the number I'm going to use. Or do we want to spend so much agriculture in food exports? So are we going to spend so much money in agriculture, then we export this to different countries and try and see how we can diversify our economy, or we spend more time just feeding ourselves? I think the data supports trying to feed ourselves, because look at it. The UK, the US, Ireland, and other developed advanced economies spend less every household spends less than 10% of their income on food. Flip it to the countries that spend the most households on food. You see Afghanistan, Azerbaijan, Nigeria, Kenya, Nigeria being the highest. So I think if Nigerians see, if we focus on local production, that's what this government tried to do with the border closure. One thing we're trying to do was to see how we can encourage our local producers, because the truth is, and this is from a business angle, if you are producing something and it's cheaper to bring it in, it's cheaper to bring the food in, you are going to lose. And and we have problems with the cost of production here because we don't have comparative advantage like Thailand, where people get rice from. Number one, we need to fix roads, we need to fix power. The critical infrastructure will help with cost push, inflation, and whatnot. So if we can find ways to consolidate, like everything we do is what do you call it, is interlinked and interrelated. If we can find a way to consolidate on infrastructure, then we now give more what do you call it, room and leverage and help to people to produce food. So that was the idea behind the border closure, to see, okay, how can we protect the local producers? Because they were complaining that, okay, I'm not getting any patronage. I've taken loans, I've taken FX to produce this amount of food, but no one is buying it. People still prefer foreign rice. So how do we get that? How do we get that bridge? That's why I said we have a dilemma, and we have to go and sit down and spend time with the data and see what would favor Nigerians. What type of decision would favor Nigerians? We have to take these hard decisions. But the truth is, in the long-term game, which obviously is agriculture, because agriculture, we have biennial crops, perennial crops, to achieve the type of food scale that we need for Nigeria's population. Remember that this is probably one of the most populated countries in the world. So to feed people easily without obviously the effects of population. But what my principal wants to do, and what Bola Ahmed Tinubu wants to do, is to establish community boards. In one of our rallies, we went to Niger State to see how we can speak. We spoke to the Association of Farmers and tell them that this is what we're going to do. We're going to spend time with community boards to preserve minimum income for farmers. We are going to find a way to eliminate the middlemen. We are going to do that. And so we'll do that. Hold on, let me I think also I want to make an observation. I think I'm the one that is cut off the most. I think the other speakers get to talk on for a minute, but it's fine. Just give me time here to establish these points, because okay.
If you are cut off, it's not intentional. Maybe it's just
I've noticed that I'm always being cut off quickly. So I think the truth is, what we want to do is to establish a community board that will guarantee minimum income for our farmers. Because once the farmers have money, then you can now scale. Because most of our farmers do subsistence farming, and you can't blame them, because the commercial is not secured. Because the middlemen come, they give them small amount of money, add profit margins on it, and it's impossible. So what we want to see is how we can link sellers directly to buyers, farmers directly to consumers. So that's one of the things we want to establish through community boards, community data, community exchanges, and also credit financing. Expand the Anchor Borrowers Program and credit facility. See how we can get to the rural communities, expand food, and then let's see how we can tackle food sufficiency. But like I said, my candidate has the antecedents to do that. I think let me just respond to what the spokesman of PDP said, that where are we going to get the funding from? And that's why I said Nigerians need to look at antecedents. I spoke specifically about how we got funding for the security. We started a Lagos State Security Trust Fund. We raised about 17 billion from private sector. And obviously, he said we can't even do much in terms of revenue, which is wrong. No candidate in the country, no governor in the country has done more than my candidate than in revenue generation, about 400 and something percent in the 8 years he was there. So let's go by, and if we want to go by antecedents, it's a game they're going to lose. But like I've said, we're going to tell you what we want to do, and we'll back it up by antecedents.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Can I react to that?
Okay.
Always ready to react.
If I may just interject 1 second, it's not a debate. If we can just keep it strictly to the manifesto. And Mr. Thomas, I really want to thank you and applaud you for sticking to the manifesto and for focusing on what you as APC, what you're doing. And that's what we really want to achieve here. We want to speak on what your plans are for Nigeria. So we would ask all the parties to focus on their plans for Nigeria. This is not a debate for you to speak about what the other party has done or not done. We want to educate Nigerians on your plans for Nigeria. And if I can also make another observation as a layman, can you please keep your theory more practical? Just bring it from the academic level to what is tangible, what we as Nigerians, what the average Nigerians can relate to. You are going to strengthening security forces by training 1,000 policemen using this strategy. Help us understand, because this is a different election for us. And it is very important for us to understand who we are going to vote for and exactly what they are going to do for Nigeria. So let's bring it from the academic high-level theory and break it down to what the woman in the village can understand when we're relating it to her. Thank you very much. And apologies, Mr. Thomas, if it seems like we were cutting you off. That's not the intention. So thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. Like I said, I'm just here to speak on the manifesto, but sometimes I get comments and I just want to respond to that.
Yes,
I'm just here on manifesto basis.
Okay,
so
let me react. For me, unless the conversation is in a form of a debate where I would have to explain to the Nigerian people why I think APC has failed and why I think our manifesto or our plan is the better alternative, unless that platform affords me, I don't think there is a basis for me to remain in the conversation, because it's not a classroom. We're not writing exam. We're engaging our manifestos to the Nigerian people to help them appreciate comparatively which one is a better plan for their healthcare, for their education, for their security, and for the future of their children. If all I am here to say is this is what is written in our manifesto, this is what, and I cannot speak comparatively, there is no need for me to be here, because we are not writing exams. And that means there is even no need for us to participate in the election, but for APC to continue. If you say, I want you people to vote for me, you have to establish why you think the one that is on the seat should not be voted for, why you think your plan is better than their plan. And you give examples of their plan that you think has failed and why you think your own will succeed with facts and figures. So I may need clarification. Otherwise, I'm unable to proceed forward.
I am going to speak, and then maybe Pastor Sonny can add clarification. The invitation was to speak on your manifesto and the plan you have for Nigeria. So that's what we are asking, and in our communication to you, that's what we asked. If you could speak on your manifesto, you have I've looked at the plan, PDP's plan. It's very well written out, well thought out. If you can bring out the points on security, on health, on what is important to Nigerians that you plan to do as PDP. We understand we all understand the current situation in the country. So we are asking you to please speak on your manifesto, how it is going to work for us in Nigeria.
Okay, so my apologies. I was actually not originally scheduled to speak. Of course, as you may well know, caller was scheduled, and then caller could not make it. He called yesterday and told me and said you wanted someone. And I'm in France at the moment doing some work with my supervisor for my PhD. And so I haven't been able to look deeply into the specificity of the restriction you are giving in the conversation. But throughout our campaign, when we started, this is our mentality and this is the perspective with which all of our spokesmen have been engaging. This is how we intend to engage until the day of election. So my deepest apologies that I'm unable to know exactly what is the limit of the conversation. And then with your kind permission, I would like to exit.
Pastor Sonny.
Well, no, to be, Bola, it's not a question of exiting. I think the conversation really, there are a lot of people on the platform, and very soon the people will be asking you questions. The questions will come both in form of comparison and antecedents, and then they will speak to your manifestos as well. So it's all encompassing. You are absolutely right. We are not, what we don't want is, there are various attacks that are there in the open.
Nobody has attacked anybody this evening.
No, I'm saying that we are engaging on the basis of policies, which is what this platform really wants to do. So nobody has gone into any personal attack. So you are absolutely in safe hands to continue to remain. If you want to make reference to the failure of the policies of the government in power, please feel free to do so. If you want to draw comparison to what your principal did when he was in government and what he is capable of doing, please feel free to do so as well. And the same thing for Dapo as well. If you want to draw comparison, what we would just say people should restrict from is going personal on the persons. And there are so many things out there, and we don't want to make this forum a forum where we will lose track of the main issues that you want to do for Nigeria and begin to face other issues. I think that's just what Jumoke was trying to highlight in her earlier speech. So we will keep it that way. I see some two hands. Let me engage them. Then I will come back to the manifesto. Roman Osagele.
Before you engage, if you don't mind, if we could give the president of ICON an opportunity to speak as well. He had responded that he had a couple of questions. Pastor Stephen Eneda from Atlanta, please go ahead with your question, and then we'll take those that have their hands up. We have 3 hands now. Pastor Eneda, can you please unmute yourself and speak? Thank you. Ask your question.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for these important meetings that you have been convening in these past months. Now, the question we ask, because whether we like it or not, Nigeria belongs to a strong geopolitical entity in sub-Saharan Africa, if not globally. Now, from indication and indices, are we talking about we have to address, all the candidates have to address agro-terrorism happening. Nigeria, according to many reports from US agencies and other ancillary institutions, have seen that Nigerians, especially farmers in the northern part of this country, even in the southwest, have been misplaced from their ancestral land, and there is going to be famine and hunger in the land. And this is not a futuristic probabilities. It's something that is happening now. How do you address that? We have over 12 million children. According to UN agencies and ancillary institutions, they are out of school currently, and over 3 million IDPs. Then let us even talk about religious hostility of blasphemy law. We have Rhoda that was murdered. We have Yahya Aminu, and we have Mubarak, who actually are on, we call Nigeria a secular democracy. We just have to be serious. How can you create an environment of prosperity when you have millions of Nigeria out of their lands, forcefully occupied? All of these things will not happen because there is not going to be any stability. So address this issue, which we are currently experiencing. There are other nations telling their citizens not to even think Nigeria. And this is global economy. So please, let us be realistic. Rhetoric is good, but this time around, even this government of Buhari has even obligation to address this. And whoever is coming, you don't address this, there won't be any economic development in Nigeria. So please let us be realistic. Thank you, Jumoke. Thank you, Pastor Ituah, for convening this. But we are very serious about this. Thank you.
So was your question addressed to all three parties? And would they want to take that question one by one?
No, I think it was just a comment. Let's take it as a
comment. Was it a comment? Okay, he wanted to,
okay. They wish to speak to it, they may. We may take the next person. So we'll just take three people. Jumoke, conduct the question and answer. And if they wish to speak to that comment, fine. If not, we'll take it.
Okay, we had Roman. Roman, your hand was up. We've asked you to unmute. Please go ahead and unmute yourself. And we ask that you keep your question very short. We have a few hands up. And so the way we take this to the spokespeople on the platform, we usually take 3 questions at a time. If you could note them and then address all 3 questions. So we'll give it to you turn by turn, again, starting with Mr. Thomas of APC, then Dr. Boala, and then I believe we now have someone from the Labour Party. So Roman, please go ahead and ask your question.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Roman Osegali. I have a question, but also an observation from the manifestos. If you look at the 3 manifestos, none of them have addressed the core problem of Nigeria. And when I say core problem, I'll use an analogy. It's like saying you constantly suffer from malaria, but your house is surrounded by stagnant water. So each time you have malaria, you treat the malaria, but you are not addressing the issue of the stagnant water around the house. Now, Nigeria's economic model is not designed to create wealth. It actually impoverishes the people. I'll give you an example. Between 1999 and 2014, we had the highest growth in this country. GDP rose from 59 billion to over 540 billion. But yet, your currency still depreciated. Yet, you still added to extreme poverty. Now, everything we're facing in Nigeria today, if you do your research very well as political parties, they are as a fallout, they are as a consequences of the economic model we practice. If we do not reverse the economic model, everything we are facing will continue. I'll give you an example. In 2018, Mr. Bill Gates said,
can you please round off?
Yes,
if
please.
You don't mind.
I will round up now. Nigeria and the DRC will account for extreme poverty, 40% of the total number of people living in extreme poverty by 2050. 2018 to 2050 is 23 years. We will have 5 presidents. So basically what he was telling us is that no matter who occupies Aso Rock, extreme poverty will continue to increase. It's not a person thing, it's a system thing. Until we change our economic model, which the 3 political parties need to address, which is not in their manifesto, we will not make progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So we are going to take the next person's hand that was up is now is Noyo Edem. Please keep it very brief so that we can take as many questions as possible. Go straight to the point, and then we'll take Helen and then Chima and Kazim Bello and Sunday and Engineer Femi. So go ahead, Ms. Noyo.
Okay. Good evening, all. First and foremost, I will just say that this has been a very difficult meeting for me. Sitting down here and hearing what some of the party members, representatives are saying. They didn't know they had to be there. Labour Party just left. So thank God someone is back to let us know that what that manifesto is. My question is directed first and foremost to APC. Please, can you give us, tell us more about your plan to secure Nigeria, the security plan, and how you intend to protect our crude oil infrastructure? Because we know that we've heard rumors, we don't know, that your APC's article, right?
No,
No.
that's PDP.
So,
Okay, I'm sorry.
okay.
Still, I don't even know. Okay, just tell me.
You don't
Just
know.
answer a question. Then I want to appeal to the other guy. Did he leave? The one from PDP?
No. Ms. Noyo, just ask your question, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I have a question directed to him, because it's disheartening to us sitting down here and seeing people that they brought from their parties to come and tell us about their party's manifesto that they want to leave. For what? Okay,
Thank
go on,
you.
APC. Let us hear APC.
Mr. Dakbo, we are going to take one more question because we usually take them in 3 so that we can have opportunity to take more people. So Helen, I'm going to ask you to unmute. Please keep your question brief. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that. Good evening, everybody. My question is not really a question, it's a comment. I thank you for convening this forum, but I'm just puzzled. There's no presidential debate. Is it because the party candidates cannot subject themselves to a debate? Has anybody tried? Because Buhari is doing whatever he's doing now because he refused to debate the other candidates. So I'm just appealing to the people that convene this. There should be a debate where the candidates will face each other. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you. So if we want to take it, Mr. Thomas, then Dr. Boala, and then someone from Labour Party, the 3 questions that have been presented to you. Do you want to address that? If you can take a couple of minutes to address that, then we go to Mr. Boala from PDP, and then to Mr. Yunusa from Labour Party. Go ahead, Mr. Dapo.
All right. The questions are being modeled up, but I'll take them in different order. Yeah. I think the first part I want to address is the part of agro-terrorism that the pastor spoke about. Yeah. So we've identified that. Yeah. And I want to bring it down to the low level that you said I should bring it down to. We've identified that we're having issues with farmers, and farmers are not having that security to produce. And these are one of the things we try to set up while we're in government to see how we can address the issue between farmers and herdsmen. Now, the issue between farmers and herdsmen on 3 things: land, pasture, water. The rivalry, obviously, is because of these 3 things. So, and that's why there have been different committees, different what do I call it, strategies to see how we can get that done. But the main part of it for our agricultural policy is to come down to the local level, yeah, and see how we can help with financing. Because the truth is, agriculture is a very, very tough, it's a risky business, okay? I'm sure most people here have attempted it at some point in time. It's as simple as saying, oh, everybody eats food, so I'll make money from agriculture. But I'm sure a lot of people have learned the hard way that it's not just about that. You have to help with the whole value chain, the whole value proposition, and the whole supply chain of that. So that's why we're going to first help in expanding our arable land. That means give more room for people to actually even farm. Then we're going to help with financing. Then we're going to do a PPP for the irrigation water project. So basically, we've seen that some lands are not, they don't have good yields. They don't yield so much because maybe there's lack of water, rain to help this cause. So we're going to see how we can get water there. So when we want to address now, when we now produce the food, number one, like I said, storage is a big problem. How do we now ensure that? Number one, we're going to help with community boards and community exchanges. So unfortunate I didn't bring the manual we had when we spoke to the Association of Farmers in Nigeria. But what we want to do is to see how we can establish a community board, okay, and obviously work with the community exchanges. We have community exchanges in Nigeria. How can we work with them to be able to guarantee the minimum income of farmer? As a farmer, if I'm going to be guaranteed that these 20 tubers of yam I've harvested, I'm going to get it for a guaranteed price. Hypothetically speaking, let's say 10,000 naira. I'll be encouraged to farm some more. So that's what we want to do. Give sellers, that is the yam sellers, the farmers, more room to be able to show their to show their produce and go straight to the buyers without the middleman. Now, let me address other questions that were asked. So in terms of security, I think security is the big issue that we need to do. And that's why I've said we're going to find a way to secure 2 things. Like I said in the beginning, number 1, secure the lives of Nigeria. 2, secure our infrastructure. Because the truth is, if you don't secure your infrastructure, you're not helping Nigerians. And the first thing we're going to do is set up how can we increase the amount of work police people. And one of the things we spoke about in our manifesto on decentralization of power, we're going to give states more say in national security. We're going to give them more say because the truth is, governors obviously need to be able to implement things. And like I said, one thing you should hold our presidential candidate to is antecedents. He set up the RRS. If you look at the different things he's done as governor, he was the first governor to help with state taxes. He set up the LIRS, set up a debt management office in Lagos State, set up LOMA, LASMA. These are critical agencies. In fact, against the wishes of the federal government, he brought electricity to his people in Ikorodu. This is someone that has fought for state control. The thing is, we need to give states more power to be able to do certain things in Nigeria. The problem of Nigeria, and that goes to the economic model question asked, is we see things from a presidential angle. So, okay, a president comes and he was going to change everything. No. What we have to do is to collaborate with everybody, the National Assembly, the state governments, the local government, and there is no candidate, and I want anyone to take this to the bank, no candidates in the country right now that has the political will and implementation and the vision than Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This is someone that will get things done. This manifesto is paper, yeah? The only person that can put this paper and execute it to real life, to reality, is only our candidates because he has that will. If it's in terms of constitutional review, we will know how we'll get to the National Assembly. We will know how we'll lobby it. If we want to get things done, we will know how to lobby it. Right now, we have one of the best national assemblies in the country. That's in the history of the country. They've put the PIA Act, they've put the electoral bill, finance bill, startup bill. Now there are about 35 bills that obviously give room for states to be able to generate their own electricity. How do we now want to collaborate to that? Our presidential candidate has the political influence to do that, to work with all these spheres of government, on all these tiers of government to see how we can get things done. Because the truth is, there have been a lot of obstacles. We have a lot of obstacles in government, a lot of obstacles, and even stakeholders. And let me give you one good example. When we wanted to do the BRT in Lagos, World Bank came, there were the people that helped in establishing that. They said they went to South Africa and Indonesia. They were resisted in South Africa by the public bus operators because those ones said BRT is going to take out from their plate. They came to Lagos. If you check the World Bank documents, they said, we give our special acknowledgement to Bola Ahmed Tinubu because he was the one that helped pave way by dealing with the downfalls and the molars to give room for BRT to work. So this is the type of influence we're talking about. Where Fashola was even the governor, if he wants to create a policy, he speaks to say, okay, this is what we want to do. And he said, okay, I will speak to the union. You have to be able to speak to other agents and stakeholders. It's not about just saying, okay, this is what you want to do. Do you have the will? Do you have the executive power to be able to get these things done? So when we want to, with state government, with security, we're going to work with state governments. How do we establish and enhance civil neighborhood watch groups? This is something he has done before. Look at the RRS, look at what we've done in funding. So this is antecedent. So when people say, okay, we want him to come out for debate, the debate is in the antecedents. He's done a lot. We just have to see how we are going to drive this thing for Nigerians, and Nigerians are going to benefit from our government. That's something I can assure you.
Thank you.
Okay, let me start by responding to what our dear elderly lady there observed about debate, and report to her that there have been debates in the country, one organized, I think twice by Arise TV, twice by Channels Television, and one by one other organization. In all of those debates, Atiku Abubakar of the PDP, the Labour Party candidate, and the NNPP, amongst other candidates featured, but the candidate of APC has refused and neglected to attend any of those debates. And even when they moved to the Chatham House in London, he was asked a question. He redirected the question to people. He said he believes in teamship. And we believe that there is no way you can be accountable to a people that you cannot answer their question. You cannot be involved in a debate where you will share your idea and where you will tell the Nigerian people you think that the idea in comparison with others, yours is a better idea. But we believe that the reason why he was avoiding debate obviously is because he may not be able to stand the debate. That's number one. Then two, with respect to the agro warfare, agro protection, some of these concepts in economics, I want to disagree with the person who observed that the reason why with all that we have acquired as a nation, we have not been able to make progress because of the economic model. There is no model that works. There's no hard and fast rule for any model anywhere in the world. There are economies that apply the pure capitalist model, it worked for them. Others have applied the socialist model, it worked for them. Others have applied the mix, it worked for them. These are matters for academics. The question, I think, is what are the problems confronting Nigeria? With respect to agriculture, at the beginning of the administration of APC, they tried a bit in agriculture, but because insecurity, which is fundamental in any peaceful state and progress of a state, took over the country, the farmers, especially from the northeast and northwest, have been displaced from their farms. So they are unable to go to farm, which now accounted to reduction in production of food items in the country. Secondly, when they introduced through the Anchor Borrowers Program, the concept of seedlings and subsidies to people and then push them to farm, during the period, they were able to make substantial progress in terms of production, especially with respect to rice. But why even after that supposed breakthrough, rice continued to be more expensive than the imported one is because they could not provide the leadership that is required to manage not just the production, but now the sale, distribution, and consumption of those rice. One of their spokesmen was asked, and he said it's because most of the people that had the breakthrough took them to the borders and sold them rather than selling them in the country. And then, of course, there is the data analysis that was carried out, and they discovered that most of the people who benefited from the Anchor Borrowers Program were actually not the farmers that but few politicians, and they applied that against the election. We intend that we are going to bring about a secured environment for farmers to thrive. A secured environment is an environment where every part of the country is governed. When you have ungoverned spaces, then you cannot predict what will happen. And that's why we introduced the multi-layer policing. So even in smaller communities, you will find collaboration between the traditional leaders, the heads of various groups, as well as the local police in those areas to serve as the buffer for first intelligence sharing with the soldiers and then the federal police about activities around the environment, like foreigners, like invaders, like terrorists, the insurgents and all of that. And when that background is established, you will find sizable, progress in terms of agriculture for the people there. Then the other thing is the people should have faith and trust in their government, which means you have to bring in integrity to what you do. The people should be able to believe that when the government say we're going A, they mean A. And even if they fail to bring A, the people will say, you said A, you meant A, although you're A, you're not able to produce that. But you cannot be driving, trafficking right and turning left, which is what APC has done. That's why we have lots of faith and allegiance to the flag and to the people. And then also talk about track record. My friend from the APC talked about no candidate has been able to have that kind of a track record like Asiwaju. I am glad to let you know that most of what they bandied and they push as track record of Asiwaju are not actually a track record, quote unquote. Lagos has been a colony, a colony for many years. And during this period, critical institutions and infrastructure were established. Then it became the national capital. So you have all the bank headquarters, embassy headquarters, federal asset, all buildings, and this is how the infrastructure of Lagos came about. And then, of course, you have the breakthrough in terms of private sector participation, which is what you find in Eko Atlantic and these places. But if you want to truly judge his track record, you look at public service and public asset and public accountability. I'm glad to let you know for the period that Asiwaju governed, he left, by the time he was through, he left a debt burden of $1.4 billion. Most of those foreign loans that were collected to be put into power and agriculture and school and healthcare. But by the time he left, the public service and public infrastructure of Lagos was worse than some of the states in the country that didn't have half of those income. Then with respect to income generation, they also brag about Lagos generate the highest revenue, understandably because of the assets, like I told you, and economic activities there that have nothing to do with Asiwaju's impact, input, or experience. However, Alpha Beta is alleged to be a company belonging to Asiwaju, which was currently legislated in the laws of Lagos. So there is no governor that will come to Lagos now that will change a company for revenue collection. It is Alpha Beta, his own company. Talk about conflict of interest. And even then, there is an audit that was carried out and discovered that Alpha Beta actually report half of what they generate in Lagos. And don't forget the revenue generated are not revenue based on the economic activity steered and initiated by the governor of that state. So there is nothing record there. But fundamentally, when you talk about record, you also have to look at antecedents. So if he comes to become the president, the FIRs of Nigeria might also be taken over by Alpha Beta. I don't want to go into personal issues of his acquisition, dynasty, and all that, but this is the track record. Now, in contrast, Atiku has had the opportunity of playing the role in Nigeria as a vice presidential candidate when they came on board in 1999, because we just came out of the military interregnum. There was no experience. We had so much debt. Nobody wanted to listen to Nigeria. The Nigerian passport was like something else. This guy, Atiku, I'm so sorry I used the word guy, Atiku Abubakar, assembled a team of private sector players in Nigeria, brought them together to propose an economic recovery. That was how we found the breakthrough in telecom that created jobs in Nigeria and changed the economic landscape of Nigeria. That was the beginning of prosperity. And then Atiku chaired in most of the reforms that brought about critical institutions in Nigeria that have now strengthened our democracy, such as the ICPC, the EFCC. You find a lot of them, and then build people around this private sector-led economy, and we found breakthrough to the extent to which he served. Now, Atiku does not need to learn the job when he becomes president. He has had the opportunity. With the multifaceted problem we have in Nigeria, you can't afford to bring a beginner or a learner. You cannot even afford to bring someone who all of his life and experience, he learned about state government or regional government, but not national government. We have diverse community, diverse views, diverse cultural and religious background. At a time when everybody distrusts each other, you need somebody that has the capacity to manage all of those. And then most importantly, our diversity. I know it is a concept when you talk about, people don't want to listen to it. But after all is said and done, a nation is as strong as its identity. And the identity of a nation is defined by the kind of patriotism the people put to it. That is not possible until the Igbo man believes he can be a president in Nigeria without inhibition, until the Igbo man believes he can be the chief of defense staff. This is what Atiku believes as the only panacea for a true democratic growth in Nigeria. For as long as a part of Nigeria will feel they are not part of Nigeria, there can never be peace in the country. You can't do agriculture. You can't do economic development. You can't thrive in education. So these are some of the things that we are looking at, real issues confronting the Nigerian people, not theory, real issue. How do you intend to resolve it?
Thank you. That's it. Okay.
I think Dr. Tanko Yakase is here. It's only fair to give him a shot as well, if he can unmute himself and speak to the issues also. Thank you very much, Daniel Boala. That's very elicit, and I think we can also speak to the issues. Tanko Yakase. Can you
please put on his video, sir?
Okay. If you can put on your video, it will be good. Go ahead, Mr. Tanko Yakase.
Hey, we can help him out.
We can't hear you.
His audio is on though.
I saw if I can help, I think I saw a text from Mr. Tanko. He said he can't engage in discussion because he's actually on the road from Zamfara, so he can't attend.
Oh, okay.
So is he really on the call? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, please, hello.
Okay, he's here. Okay.
Yeah, please, if you can listen to me, please. I am so sorry. I am actually on the road right now as I'm speaking to you. I'm in Ituah. I'm just trying to get back to Kaduna. But I really would have loved to engage truthfully in the discussion. But as everybody knows, our template is very, very clean and clear. It deals with contemporary issues. And these issues are with regard to the 7-point agenda that Peter Obi has railed out. And I want to believe among the first set of presidential candidates to have done so. And he has said it very clear that he's going to deal with the issue of security and uniting the nation across the issue of banditry, kidnapping, and all whatnot. Secondly, he said that he's going to deal with the issue of production center growth for food security and export. Thirdly, the 7-point agenda talks on effective legal and institutional reform, rule of law, corruption, and government effectiveness. And I'm sure for those who are interested in constitutional reform, this particular part of the 7-point agenda would deal with that issue. Number 4, Peter Obi said, and Daddy Baba Ahmed said, they are going to leapfrog the economy from oil to the 4th industrial revolution, the 4th tier, so that Nigerians could be more domiciled in other areas of economic endeavor. 5th, he said they are going to deal with the expanding physical infrastructure. Physical infrastructure in terms of those that we've already had, as what we have seen, and then kind of managing them together to become more effective, dealing with the issue of the Orosanya report, and then that will enhance growth, meaning that may hit you in similar thing and then to improve the economy. 7, and the last point in the 7-point agenda, they said they are going to do with robust foreign policy that restore Nigerian strategic relevance, i.e., we are all witness to the way in which Nigeria has been looked at in the eye of the Committee of Nations. A lot of people who have plunged this country into a total unacceptable situation, i.e., corruption, the issue of drug peddling, and at the same time, those who have already sold the country and made it into an uncorrected matrimony. The Peter Obi and Daddy Baba Ahmed Manifesto is dealing with current issues that will deal with the Nigerian problem headlong. We're not creating something from the moon, but we want to deal with it to make sure that Nigerians get succor. The 72-page document, very clear, and an interesting reading for everyone. It will make sure that everybody can easily access it and test it. This is the best I can do on a happy deliberation, but on the 7-point agenda and the 72-page document of the Labour Party. I thank you very much for the time given to me. God bless you all.
Unfortunately, we lost quite a bit of your audio there, but I'm sure you have more opportunities to engage. We have 2 more hands up. Sunday Beatrice from Zumonta and Engineer Femi and also Mubarak. I'm going to call on Dr. Kasim Bello because he had his hand up for a long time. So go ahead, Dr. Kasim, and then I will, Dr. Bello, if you can go ahead with your question, and then Sunday will go next, and Mr. Femi will go next.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Moderator and Mr. Moderator and the team over there. The question is straight. One of the major problems and the dilemma that we all know prevalent in Nigeria is the book of engagement that we call the Constitution. A major institution in the United States had conducted a study that showed that 105 clauses in our Nigerian Constitution is completely conflicting. And most Nigerians agreed that that book of engagement needs a really surgical operation. Now, the question is this. We've been having manifestos, promises, campaigns, but we cannot bring Elon Musk, who appears to be the most brilliant man on earth today, to Nigeria and succeed no matter what with that book. What is any of the candidates, and I'm directing this to all the candidates now, what is their candidate going to do to sacrifice in producing a constitution that will limit regional agitation for separation and bring Nigeria together in a more democratic setting within 1 year, and plus to sacrifice what Mikhail Gorbachev did in USSR when he sacrificed his presidency to lose power in favor of disintegrating USSR for all those countries to become free, so Nigeria can be free. Thank you.
So the second person, Sunday, please go ahead with your question.
Right. Okay. Thank you again. Thank you for the opportunity. I wanted to just make sure that, again, we are certainly not dealing with any oil salesperson, or at the same time, snake oil salesperson, or potentially someone that is going to use car salesperson, really. Because in my opinion, I feel that to a large extent, we want to be able to be certain that whatever the candidates or the parties are selling to us are pieces of information that we know Nigerians can really count on and the candidates will acknowledge down the line. Because to a large extent, we've seen that APC, for example, as an example, in this current dispensation, I would say, so many promises were made and none of that was accomplished. Just wanted to put that as a preface before I ask my two questions. One in the area of security. And I want to know what the specific strategy would be that each candidate is going to address the porous and dependent approach that Nigeria is using in terms of trying to secure the country. That is to say, to a large extent, for example, the Nigerian government is dependent on countries, advanced countries like the United States or several other countries in Europe. And to a large extent, a lot of them use whatever diplomatic measure they can employ to deny Nigeria those opportunities for acquiring those types of resources to secure our nation. Now, the question is, what is the plan by your candidate to employ people within the country to develop solutions that would secure the country? Because dependent on all these countries had failed so far. The second question is in the area of economy, because we know that when people prosper, the country prospers and the government prospers. So the question is, what are the specific plans that is going to be employed for Nigerians in Nigeria in terms of their personal earnings, social security, skill acquisition, manpower development, and inclusion of the brains that are successful in several other countries, like the United States here and all around the world, in the government that you are going to form, so that they can contribute meaningfully to the country, not based on religious, ethnic, or regional affiliation. I'd like to know that. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to take one more question in this group. Engineer Femi, please go ahead, and then we'll take the last three sets of questions, and then we'll close. Engineer Femi, please go ahead with your question.
Okay, good evening. I just want to pick two questions out of 1,000,001 questions that I may have. I remember last year, July, we had the Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Obafemi Hamzat, in this on this platform, and I remember I was talking about taxation, multiple and overtaxation in Lagos. I could remember very well. His response then was that there was no multiple overtaxation in Lagos, but barely 1 or 2 weeks, we saw Lagos State coming up with setback tax going to about 250 to 280,000 naira. So if you have your setback, you can no longer park without paying the government. Now, my question is this. It's obvious that we are overtaxed in Nigeria. Now, you have VAT only moving from 5% to 7.5%. While we were growing up, economics textbook, popular economics textbook all over the world, and the same popular practice all over the world, you have taxable income, you have non-taxable income. In Nigeria tax law today, all your incomes are taxable. So you agree with me that we are overtaxed, except we are looking into other directions. So I am directing this question to the major political parties. What are your plans? We're going to continue with this overtaxation where the populace are pushed on edge, or you have a plan to redirect this? That is one. And the second point is this. I could see, I'm talking about the major political parties now. I see that the candidates have really employed well-spoken, articulate, and eloquent spokespersons. You agree with me on the platform? But you will find out that the same way we had it, these are sponsors, you know, and the same way we had it in 2015, 2019. And you will agree with me that these are not the doers. They are just the promoters. The doers are the candidates themselves. And I can bet it with anybody that whatever these major political candidates, spokespersons have said today, their principals don't have a clue of 50% of it. The same thing, we've seen it played out in the last 8 years. They don't have a clue of it. And then they can come out to say that we didn't make this promise. So I want to ask today, we still have about 23 days to election. I want to believe, I want to vote as a franchise that I have today, and I know many people have it. They have the same mindset that they are going to vote only the person that can, the candidate that can individually, you know, do analysis of all the situations, whether it's security, whether it's economic, whether it's microeconomic, any type of situation we're talking in the country, they can analyze it themselves, give us the figures and the numbers, and then they can profile solution or tell us what they are going to do. So I am saying we still have 23 days. We need your principals to come. Out of the 3 major candidates, I've only seen 1 candidate.
Can you please round up, sir, with your question? Okay. Please round up.
Who can analyze and tell us figures and also tell us what we want. So I am saying that is it possible for us to have the remaining 2 major candidates to come on this platform? If they cannot go to the public platform, come to this platform and talk to us. In rounding off, if I continue to mention names, everybody will agree with me. I know those who are promoters during 2015, 2019, they have cashed out today. Owner of Titan Rice is no longer in Nigeria. They also their property. Thank you, sir. They are in huge debt. A lot of
I don't mean to cut you off. Away. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So, I don't mean to cut you off, please.
What do we need to...
Okay, you muted. Sorry, we are just going to take one more question so that you have 4. I think that's the last set. And then I'll have Dr. Bawala start. Dr. Z, can you go ahead with your question? I've asked you to unmute, so you have 4. Others have dropped, and that will be your last set of questions, and we can close. Dr. Z, please go ahead with your question.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My question is to all 3 party representatives. And it goes this way: what is their party's plan to increase Nigeria's GDP? 1. And 2, what is their party's plan for principle of checks and balances? Because that seems not to be in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Can I have Dr. or Barrister Bawala start? Take that first, please.
Okay, like thank you. Thank you. But let me observe that by 7 o'clock, I'm supposed to be in another meeting. So maybe 5 minutes to 7, if you permit me to go.
We'll be done.
Let me quickly respond to the speaker who is insisting that candidates do not actually, he's insisting that candidates should come here because they will deny what their spokesperson say. This is some of with the greatest respect problem we have with people. We are called spokespersons, not candidates. You don't expect us to be candidate. And what we speak, that's why the meeting was convened around our manifesto. So if what is in the manifesto is shared by a spokesperson, I don't think you're being fair to the spokesperson by saying that the man who produced the manifesto, who shares the vision of the manifesto, is not likely going to adhere by that. Let me tell you from the church background where I come from. The founder of a church comes with a vision, and then he trains disciples and they go everywhere ministering. And whatever they do, they represent his interest. To see a disciple somewhere ministering and say that is cannot be believed, or that it is something that he can plausibly deny because he's not the one saying it's not right. All over the world, America, England, they have spokesperson. And then talking about that, they have to come and analyze and state the stats and everything. The leadership is not academic. A leader, all you need is to provide leadership. You don't have to be intellectually sound in the sense of teaching your manifesto as though you are a lecturer. You have the vision. You will, when you win election, you will always have the capacity to gather the brightest of the bright. who will then give those details. So I hope that my friend will understand that. And of course, the candidates are not omnipresent. If they're in one place, they can't be in another place. But if the forum is created for them, sure, they will be there. With respect to growing the GDP of Nigeria, this is where I believe that we have a marked difference in our own agenda with that of APC, because analysts and experts have analyzed our own philosophies and manifestos, and they said that PDP's manifesto is purely based on private sector led. And of course, like I said earlier in my opening, that in any economy that is private sector led, one thing you can give it to them is that they create jobs. Private sector, that's all they do. They create jobs. And then, of course, from the income you get from certain assets of government privatized, you can then provide incentives to those who are incapable of rising. APC, the reason why there is nothing they say that can be believed is because everything they are promising now was what they promised before, and they have not been able to change. And when they started out, they say we're going to continue where Buhari stopped. So if you say you will continue insecurity, there's no way you can provide the solution. And when they said we're going to the record of the person, we went and couldn't find any record. Nigerian people are the brightest in the world, smartest in the world, happiest in the world. Even spiritually, they have more depth as compared to ministers around the world. So all we need is to provide leadership that will bring back this brightest of the brightest, these smart people, these bright people, these willing people into the country. So if you allow private sector to lead, it means a Nigerian doctor in the United Kingdom or in the United States will find reason to come and invest by opening hospital or providing certain services. Atiku Abubakar in his university in Yola, you have Americans teaching there because he created an environment that was conducive for somebody to fly from America and come and lecture in Nigeria. Recently, Google, they checked through their system and saw traffic from West Africa, from Nigeria, and they narrowed down to the northern Nigeria. They suspected it was insurgency. So they sent some people who came to Abuja after meeting with their envoys. They flew to Yola and discovered it was a university, the traffic, because of the internet service and the volume of engagement that the people in that university, are engaging. And he said, this is what I will replicate so that we can have, instead of our people going abroad, they will create those jobs in Nigeria. We have had now a statistic that said that every year we have not less than 300 doctors that leave Nigeria to other places in the world. So private sector economy will keep them at home.
Thank you. Dr. Thomas, do you want to give your response to the questions?
So there are a lot of questions, so I'm going to address it. I think the first thing I want to address is I understand the PTSD from people that say, no, you promised this, you promised that. And that's why, if you follow what I've been saying from the beginning, I've just been speaking on antecedents of my candidates, and I've tried to support every point we're going to do with an antecedent. So if you doubt what we are going to say, what we're going to do in future, look at our past. Did we do it? Also, I think our manifesto is the only manifesto that has promised to give a state of the youth survey. So what that survey is we're going to ask Nigerians for feedback on our performance every 2 years. We're going to do that biannually. It's in one of the things we want to do as a manifesto. Now, we are going to tackle, I also want to corroborate what the speaker of the PDP said in terms of we are spokesmen and we are not candidates. So, but the reason why we're spokesmen is to speak about the manifesto. We can't deny the manifesto.
Sorry, you're not a spokesman. Correct it for the purposes of integrity.
No, like this week. No, yeah, exactly. What I mean, we are speaking for the party. So at the end of the day, it's more or less like we can't deny the manifesto at the end of the day. No one is going to deny the manifesto is out. Now, what we are going to do in Nigeria, obviously, there are certain things we are going to do, and I'm going to still go by my train of thought using antecedents to support what we want to do. Now, when we talk about Nigeria's problems, we look at it from a budget. Let's look at the budget perspective. We spend about 40-50% of our budget taking care of personnel costs. That's a large amount of money that we spend. And one of the things our principal did, as our candidate did when he was Lagos State Governor, was to find a way to reduce and to eliminate ghost workers in the civil service. And how did he do that? He went to America. He saw IBM. He saw Microsoft. He saw Oracle. And he spoke to them and said, okay, we need to improve our public sector accounting. We need to get rid of ghost workers. At that time, civil servants were getting paid in cash. How do we get rid of ghost workers? Oracle came, set up a database. and we look at the civil service in Lagos, it's probably one of the best civil service in the country. A lot of states come and learn about what happens in Lagos State, antecedents. Also, let's talk about justice. One of the problems we have in Nigeria is actions don't have consequences. So justice is what we're going to try and focus on justice. And we've talked about what we're going to do in terms of how to improve speedy dispensation of justice in Nigeria. We're going to establish more courts so that there will be more cases tried. What is the antecedent of our candidate? We set up the office of the public defender. That means a layman without what you call a funds can have access to public defense and public justice system and say, okay, I can get a lawyer that can support my case. So justice is going to be there. Another thing we're going to look at is women inclusion. 47% of voters in Nigeria are women. And also we've seen that a lot of people have not been able to, a lot of women are not been able to come into the foray when it comes to Nigeria. They've not been able to play a part. And this obviously, like I've said, Nigeria's problems are interrelated. This has affected Nigeria in whole. How? Number one, let's look at fertility rates. Now, Nigeria, the average woman in Nigeria gives birth to about 5.5 children. The average woman in Nigeria. Look at advanced economies, all below 2. Canada, UK, England, UK and US, all below 2. But Nigeria we're still having fertility at 5.5. That's because the average woman has not been educated enough. And we've seen the effect of education on women. More education on women means less children. Less children will not be born into poverty. When people say Nigeria is a multidimensionally poor country, it's because it's not that people are jumping from middle class to being poor. No, people are born into poverty. The poor keep getting poorer, and they are bringing poor people to the system. So how do we address that? Educate the woman, bring her into the financial circle. That's how we're going to improve GDP as well. Give women more jobs, give them access. And there's no candidate, obviously, among the three that has done more for women in the country. Antecedents are there. He obviously was one of the chief, protagonists of having female deputy governors. He done that in the Southwest and even in the States. So you have to look at how have our antecedents done. Now, in terms of constitutional review, somebody spoke about constitutional review and how we can solve different issues. There's something called the Pareto principle, where 80% of problems are caused by 20% of the people, and I just use that as an example to describe Nigeria's situation. I think the leaders can obviously solve 80% of Nigerian problems. About who has the capacity, the political capacity, to get these leaders together and say, okay, this is the vision for Nigeria. So in terms of electricity, the executive can have a plan, budgeting plan, and say, let's do this. But the legislative are the ones that will approve the budget. So can we get the legislative to approve the budget and solve electricity? Nigerians don't want excuses. Nigerians don't want, oh, this is what these people did, this is what these people. Nigerians want to see your plan. And like I've said, we have one of the most influential, our constitution is one of the most influential, vision-driven leaders in the country. If not Africa, this is someone that can do and bring people, private sector people into the country. This is someone that has the antecedents. So we've heard about it before. So many things we've said before. Most of the people that are going to work in our cabinet are people with different experience globally and internationally. We're working with different people on how we can improve startups. How can we help with startups? This thing, we're working with people that have created unicorn startups. These are people that are going to help and drive our policy, which will bring more people into the equation. Now, Nigerians are afraid of manifesto. And if you look at our manifesto, I want you to get this key point. This is a very key point. Our manifesto we're not sugarcoating anything. Previous manifestos have been saying $1 will be equal to 1 naira. Fuel will be less than 85 naira. Nobody's doing that now. We've said it. Our principal has said it. Bola Ahmed Tinubu has said, we're going to remove fuel subsidy. And if you protest, there's no problem. But I have to remove fuel subsidy. We're ready to take difficult decisions for Nigeria. We've said we're going to remove this foreign exchange system that we have that is obviously creating arbitration or foreign currency dislocation, where we're having a black market rate and a bank rate. We're going to remove it. We're going to possibly float the foreign exchange mechanism. And when we do that, the dollar is going to go high. So I am telling you, if we do these two things, fuel prices are going to go high, dollar is going to go high. But this is for the long-term good of Nigeria. The reason why previous people in the past and previous even different countries find it difficult to make these decisions because of fear of election. But one thing is my candidate is not afraid of losing an election, even if he loses it for the better of the people. If the long-term thing we want to do is for the better of people, that's what we're going to do. So I understand Nigerians are afraid of promises and everything, but we've told you what's on ground, what we're going to do. Some are going to be difficult decisions, but we're going to ensure that we do it. But like I said, look at the antecedents of our candidates. revenue in every sector. Healthcare, we're going to work with state governments. How can we improve healthcare? So these are the things we have to look at. But and also, let me just answer this question. In terms of taxes, we are not going to overtax. What we're going to do is to expand the tax net. So more people will give tax. We are in a situation where few people give tax in the whole of Nigeria. We have a terrible tax to GDP in Nigeria. So what we want to do is to expand. How do we bring people into the tax bracket? From there, but we have to provide infrastructure and an economy. Someone that has any money that we're able to pay tax. So when we do that, we'll be able to expand the tax net. So those are the things that I want you guys to understand.
Thank you. Pastor Sonny, also, I just want to also state that Mr. Thomas, you're the only one on the platform now. Daniel had to leave. He did say he had another engagement. We have one last question from Mr. Dada. So just so you know, APC is the only one on the platform now. We no longer have Labour Party and PDP on the platform. So go ahead, Mr. Dada, with your question.
So unfortunate that those three major parties are not on platform. I just want to implore them that if their candidates should become the president, all these grammars they are just playing here is not the issue. All this foreign exchange economy is not the issue. The two major issues is that their candidates just provide a stable electricity for Nigerians to produce their local products. And the second one is to have a biometric database of every Nigerians. This will curb a lot of criminality in the society. I just want to say this to those three major parties. Just imploring them, if truly they meant well for that country, because as Nigeria is going, I don't know if it will be suitable for anybody in the next 10 years, because the rate at which our younger generations are going into crimes is alarming. Just to say this, thank you so much for the platform, pastors, and every other collaborator.
Thank you very much. So this brings us to the end of the session. Pastor Sonny, if you have anything else to add, please go ahead. And then Pastor Olu, you have a video that you would like to play. Do we still have time for that? Mr. Thomas, thank you for staying for the duration. Also, thank you. Really appreciate
yes, we have time
your
to play
composure.
the video.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So do you want to play the video now?
Right away. Right away.
Please go ahead.
It's almost time to make a choice. The choice of who should lead Nigeria's Lagos state for the next 4 years. News Central, in partnership with the Electoral College, Civic Hive, the Africa Leadership Group, Sakola Foundation, and CGID, presents the Lagos Gubernatorial Debate 2023, featuring Olufunso Dorothy of the African Democratic Congress, Gbadebo Rhodes Viva of the Labour Party, Kunle Taufik Uthman of the Social Democratic Party, Akim Braithwaite of the National Rescue Movement, Abdulaziz Olajide Adeniran of the People's Democratic Party, and Babajide Olajide Sanwo-Olu of the All Progressive Congress. Watch the candidates for Lagos Governor debate on issues most important to you. News Central, your truly Pan-African news channel, and Lagos Talks 91.3 FM will exclusively broadcast the Lagos Gubernatorial Debate 2023 live on February 15, 2023 at 6 p.m. It's time to make your choice, a choice for the future.
Thank you for that. Pastor Sonny, I don't know if you have any other comments and or closing remarks. If Mr. Thomas has any closing remarks before I say mine. Pastor Sonny.
Okay, thank you very much, Jumoke. Thank you again, Dapo. We truly appreciate your time on the platform. The whole idea was just to help people know what is in the various manifesto of all the various parties, and then to help them to make a choice. We also have an app out there that people can subscribe to, and I'm sure Jumoke will speak to that, just to help people make better choices, because the election cycle this time, we don't want it to be based on sentiment, religion, tribe, people we know, but people that are competent, capable, and can deliver the job for Nigerian people. So we appreciate your time. It was quite educative. You had time to go inside your manifesto. And I must say, I did hear a few fresh ideas that I didn't know before. Thank you for that. And I'm sure a few people on the platform also got a bit of that. So we're quite grateful and thank everyone that has taken the time to stay up till this time on the platform. Appreciate everybody. And next week, we'll continue to engage until the election day with various players in the election circle. Thank you very much. Jumake, over to you.
So thank you all very much for joining. And I also just want to also state a personal observation and to encourage us that we are the electorate and that we do have a right to ask questions and for us to be addressed as the electorate. We want answers. We want to hear which way Nigeria is going. It's very important. And so we appreciate those that have taken the time to really express their plans to us, and we are hoping others would do more in really giving us clear directions on how they want to lead Nigeria out of the current situation that we are in. And I just want to encourage Nigerians to keep asking the hard questions and to hold the candidates accountable now, during elections, and even post-elections. We also have the leadership assessment tool that Pastor Sonny had mentioned, and I'll share that in the chat in a few minutes, just for us to take a critical look at the character, the criteria of leadership. What do they possess that qualifies them to lead Nigeria? We want people to take critical look before they cast their vote and make sure that we are voting for the right person, the one that has all the attributes to really move us out of the current situation that we are in. So I would encourage everyone to share that message. You know, it's one thing to have manifestos, read the manifestos, it's academic, but we also want people that can implement those manifestos, the actions in the manifestos. So I would be sharing that shortly, and then I think those are the last questions that we have. Mr. Thomas, do you have any parting remarks? Closing remarks?
Yes, my parting remarks is yes, I really understand Nigerians' desire, obviously, for how do I call it, for better representation, obviously, and it's why one of the things our principal has done, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is going around. I know people who actually want to see him in a debate, but we've spent so much time going to different states. We're still going to different states, rallying. We're speaking to Nigerians. We need to know that not all Nigerians have access to TV and YouTube and all that. Nigerians want to know what we are saying. And obviously, if you look at all the speeches, if you spend time and hear all the speeches, he talks about his plans. In the Southeast, he was talking about how we're going to bring ports to the South, and Southeast, so that we'll decongest Apapa port. So he said that, obviously. He also spoke about different plans on how we're going to bring back IOCs. So these are things that he says in rallies as well. So he's speaking to Nigerians. So we're not an exclusive government. I mean, that's why I'm still even here. Other parties, other candidates have left, but I'm still here, obviously, because we want Nigerians to know that we actually have a good plan for them. Yes, we've been hamstrung by a lot of global external shocks. This current administration, we've suffered 2 oil price crashes, about 2-3 recessions, obviously, and 2 of them were not induced by our government. So it's very, very difficult, obviously, to achieve the Nigeria you want in about 4-8 years. But what we want to do is obviously create that template. And obviously, in terms of feedback, like I've said, there's a state of the youth survey we're going to give out to youth in every 2 years for Nigerians to actually assess us. This is a government that is very inclusive. We talk to everybody we care about everybody. If you look at our candidate, he's spoken about the hardship, obviously, from the scarcity and everything. This is something that we want to actually address, help Nigerians to fix issues. And thank you for also having me on this platform. I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you so very much. I'm sharing the leadership scoring criteria that we have, and I'm having challenges with my click on here. Not sure why, but maybe I can also, I'll probably send it to, okay. Yeah, I found it, thank you. So I just want everyone to please take a look at that document and then share it. We need to select the right leader, we need to look at what they have to offer in addition to their manifesto, but also all the other qualities that we need for the person that is going to occupy the highest office in the land. Thank you so very much. Pastor Sonia, I believe you have closed with your closing remark. I don't know if there's anything else. Pastor Olu from the back office, is there anything else that we need to add?
Now, just to inform
I was requested to unmute. That
participants that we would like them to also join us during the gubernatorial debate coming up February 15. We are also going to broadcast it on our platform here for those that are interested to log.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. And then for those that have additional questions, you can send it to us, and then we'll go ahead and send it to the spokespeople that were here and see if they can address those questions. Thank you all for joining. We really appreciate your time on the platform. Thank you again, Mr. Thomas, for your presentation and for really sticking with us to the very end. We appreciate you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for arriving very early.
Thank you all, everyone. Thank you. God bless you all. Have a very great evening.
Okay, Pastor is
and
back.
Lord be with you all. Thank you very, very much. Good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you all.